5 o'clock, everyone. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our planning meeting. It's Monday, January the 29th, 2024. This meeting will be streamed live and recorded for public viewing on the town's YouTube page. This evening, we acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of Chippewa, Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Anishinaabe. It is through the connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together, as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. Council, I'd like to advise you, if you have a urinary interest, to declare it at the appropriate time. Clerk, do we have a delegation this evening for a regular meeting?
No delegations this evening.
Okay, thank you. Item 5 on your agenda, business arising from previous. Anything under that?
I'm on.
Okay. Okay, let's go to item number 6.1 on the agenda. That is have a motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that the report by Patty Richardson, Senior Planner, dated January the 22nd, 2024, be received in the bylaw 9 of 2024, deeming lots 12 to 22, registered plan 496, not to be lots in a plan of subdivision, be approved by council and is taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. We have Ms. Richardson with us this evening. Council, you've had a chance to look at your staff report. I'm going to begin on my right. Councillor Bojan, any questions?
Thank you, Worship. I guess just one clarification question. So I guess once that's taken out, it's just still good lot.
Yes, that was the intention of deeming them together as one lot to protect the natural heritage there and the wood lot. Yes, that was a compromise struck at the time the subdivision was approved.
Okay, thank you. That's just a clarification I need. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Basie?
Nothing, Your Worship. That was my question.
Councillor Rodriguez?
Thank you, Your Worship. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
The lot would be the ownership of who? Would it remain the ownership of the developer?
Correct.
Or would it get assigned to a certain lot?
No, the developer, once the lot, well, the developer owns all the lots now.
Yeah.
They'll be deemed into one parcel and they'll still own them.
In perpetuity?
Well, I suppose they could sell them, but they're not developable. They're protected, so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
No questions.
Dr. Van Claveren?
Nothing for me, sir.
Councillor Wolbeth?
Nothing for you, sir.
All right. Council, you've heard the motion. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Great. We go to 6.2. I need a mover for this.
Would you move that, please?
Thank you. Motion by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Basie. That the report by Patty Richardson, Senior Planner, dated January the 22nd, 2024, regarding the Blue Water Developments Incorporated assumption be received, and that bylaw 10 of 2024 be approved by council and taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Once again, we have Ms. Richardson with us. On that report, council, I'm going to go to my left for questions. Councillor Wolbeth?
Terrestrial crayfish. Have they got them all collected up, or what What happened there?
Well, what they did was they identified that they existed on the property, and the stormwater management pond that was constructed there is their habitat. So it's being maintained as their habitat, and I understand from reading some of the information that was submitted, so we could assume it, that things are okay in there, that they are establishing a habitat, so that's the best we can do.
And just a second question, to assume this subdivision, a lot of construction going on in there, obviously, and a lot more houses to be built. So any damages that would happen during that construction on the roads, I'm talking, the curbs, because you see there's already been something damaged here as far as, anyway, would they be still responsible for that?
The builder on the lots, now I'm going from memory, the builder on the lot is responsible for damage done during the construction of the home. So I believe there's a security deposit taken at the time of the building permit to cover that damage.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Nothing further for me, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy?
Yes, this section has a forested area along the lake, and what's the ownership of that? Like, does the whole subdivision have ownership of that? How's that identified? I think it's, there's a right of way through there to get to the lake. So I just wondered how.
I can't
Did
answer.
did I get you?
I did, because I wasn't here when it was all approved.
Yeah,
but
that's
I think
right.
Adam can help you with that.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, there is a large block underneath where the mouse is pointing currently.
Right.
That is a common block, commonly owned by the entire ownership of that subdivision.
Okay, so that's it. The right of way also, the little entrance?
There is also a
that's
sliver of
part
a
it?
road allowance there that permits a trail down to the beach,
Okay,
which again is commonly owned by the property owners.
okay. So was there parks fee paid for, on this property?
I do believe,
I
it-
see there,
Pardon me?
I don't recall parks fee seeing.
Yes, all the fees have been paid. We're satisfied that they paid everything they need to pay.
Okay, I saw the services, they're all paid, but I didn't
Yes.
see anything about parks fees, so,
Yes, it's been paid.
sure,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Councilor Rodriguez?
No questions.
Okay. Councilor Vacy?
Yes, your worship, mine's kind of along the lines of Mr. Wolovitz. That there's a lot of houses to be built on this street yet. You say if there's damage done, but what about damage to the street and the surface and the trucks and everything else pounding along on it for the next 3-4 years? Like,
Well-
just because they paid their frontage fees, does that mean we have to take over this thing? We have no choice? Damage in the future on our roads. How do we prove that? How do we get our money back? Blah, blah.
Ms. Richardson?
Well, I can probably address some of it. The subdivision agreement requires we assume it after all the conditions in the subdivision agreement are satisfied, and that includes the 24-month period where it's under maintenance. We don't own it. They have to keep it up. After that, we are obligated under the subdivision agreement terms to assume it if everything's been satisfied. And I think in my report, that's what I'm telling you. Everything's been satisfied. They're requesting that we assume it. Now, yes, there's still lots of houses to be constructed there, and we do, as I said, take deposits from the builders for the building permits. That's the best we can do, given the subdivision agreement and everything else. We can't really put off assuming.
additional to that, the streets bylaw does require anyone who causes damages to our roadways to repair those damages. And if they choose not to repair those damages, we can do the damage themselves and then bill them through their taxes. There's a few mechanisms to do it.
But how will we determine who's damaging them when the matter of 10 houses being built?
That is always the challenge, sir.
So the top coat has been put on this street? The surface? All right,
Anything else?
that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilor Bolgen?
Thank you. I just have one quick, just to build off, Deputy Mayor McEwen's comments there, just to clarify here. So that right of way that's there and anything that they want to build in terms of access to the beach or whatever they dream up, that's not the responsibility of the town for upkeep going forward. That's all homeowners. It's all 100% the responsibility of the owners who have those deeded rights to that block. Thank you.
Anything further?
That's everything. Thank you.
Good, I have nothing. So council, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Item 7 bylaws. Do we have anything under that?
Nothing at this time.
All right. Go to 8.1, council. I have a motion by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Vacy. That the report by Randy Burke, planner dated January the 15th, 2024, regarding the request for draft plan of condominium extension, Blue Point condominiums, be received, and the council direct staff to advise the County of Lambton that there are no concerns with granting Allen Developments, Blue Point bracketed Incorporated, an extension of draft plan approval, the plan of condominium known as 38C-11002. Ms. Burke, what this authored the report to my right. Councillor Rodriguez, any questions?
Yes, thank you. So I think this would be year like 10 of extensions. If not, it feels like it. I do have one question on it. And I had mentioned this in a previous meeting where it was not long after the August 23rd rain event. Phase 1 has been assumed already because the services are all in and up and running, and the drainage is being directed to the storm pond over on Cullen in Vanbury. But phase 2, which is not the point of subject here, but it has, I believe this is this for phase 2 or this for phase 2?
It's for the entire draft plan.
Which includes phase 1 and phase 2?
Yes, because, so this is just the creation of the draft plan of condominium. It's, the phasing is an engineering practice within that plan of condominium.
Well, on phase 2 portion, which has not been developed yet, and the drainage from that land, I mentioned it caused flooding on Harris Point Drive, because the direction of flow goes to Harris Point Drive and down Blue Point Drive to drain A. There is a hill of dirt that has been there for almost 10 years. Rather large, and I don't know if that's causing some of the problems or helping some of the problems with those abutting lands who have forever and complained forever to every council staff member in 30 years probably about drainage problems on their backyards. So I believe it was left that you were going to look at that, and I have not heard anything back in regards to what is going to be looked at there. If it's redirecting that drainage, causing more flooding, or what is the scope?
If you recall the conversation, and I'll discuss the matter with their Director of Public Works and have staff review it. They do have to maintain their drainage in such a manner that they don't adversely affect their adjacent properties. Do that to make sure they're not affecting our roadways or the existing dwellings next.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and you do have those pictures that I submitted. Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's it, Councillor.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Vacy?
Yes, your worship, kind of along the same lines that this has been extended for 10 years. It's a prime piece of property that looks terrible that nothing's being built on it. So I don't know how long are we obligated to leave it looking like it's looking not developed around, like I say, our biggest subdivisions that have been developed, and nothing ever seems to get done. So I don't know if what the next steps are, if we can say no to extending it, but like I say, seems like it comes up every year, and every year we just keep, like there's no incentive to get it done. And obviously the builder has no incentive to get it done or get them sold. I don't know what to say about it.
Clerk?
If I could just add to that, your worship, just, the December permits that were issued for building permits, I believe there was 5, maybe 6 building permits issued for houses in that. So that's some movement we haven't seen in a long time. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Councillor Vacy?
That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Bojan?
Thank you, your worship. I guess just piling on the same, I don't want to say the same thing over and over again as what has already been said, but I think it's a perfect example where the province is telling municipalities to build more houses, and this is a perfect example where we've got lots of property earmarked, approved, and 10 years later, we still haven't been able to build the houses. So it's a good example for what municipalities have been trying to tell the province, that sometimes it's not the municipality's fault, it's just they're not developing it. So I'm gonna ask the question, I guess, that Councillor Vacy said, just out of curiosity, is what happens if we don't extend it?
If you don't recommend extension, your disagreement with extending it will go to the county, and the county will make a decision on whether they'll extend it or not. It's not often. It's not often that municipalities don't agree to extensions. I understand your concern and your frustration with the progress of development. But I'm not convinced that if you don't extend it, that you're gonna get any more or less action on the property. I mean, developers develop when they think there's a market to develop and make money. Otherwise, they don't. No matter what we say or do, or, you know, I mean, it's up to council what you want to do, but I'm not sure it will affect the change that you would like.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think last year, I remember correctly, that's kind of what we heard from the builder or the representative, is that COVID and this stuff. I mean, we've had developments get approval, put shovels in the ground, build a house and turn the keys over several times over since then. So I just wanted to voice that, but as it sounds like, doesn't even matter, because I'm sure the county has their reasons to continue extensions, but just wanted to voice that. Thank you.
I just want to check with Lisa. Is someone online from, as a representative?
Yes, Ms. Rodney.
Okay, I didn't know if they were, wanted to comment.
Let me finish this one here, though. We have Mr. Ray's on from the development. Would you like to comment from him?
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Ray's, it's Mayor Atkinson. Would you be able to unmute and maybe give us some direction on where the plans are moving forward?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rodney Reyes. I'm the development manager from the Valor Group handling this project. I have to admit, last year I was in the same council asking for extension for another year, and here I am again asking the honorable body to extend. It's been a little bit of almost 10 years, just like the good councilor Alex said earlier, that the project didn't move. And it was last year that we started really putting a shovel onto the ground, where the clerk Erin kind of mentioned that there's now 5 building permits, and it's just mayor at this time. We're holding steady. There are 4 sales, and those 4 houses are now moving and getting built. As a matter of fact, there's 3 that already has a roof and has been dried wall. And the only reason the 4th one got delayed is because we needed to secure a minor variance on the side triangle, which the good planning council approved late last year. And that has also moved, and we put shovel in the ground, digging for the foundation. So there are 4 houses apart from the clubhouse, and we plan to build the swimming pool this late spring. We're it's needless to say, we're impacted by the overall real estate environment at the moment. But we plan to push our sales this coming spring.
Okay. Good, thank you.
So movements has been ongoing since we've asked extension last year. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Thank you for that input. Councilor Rodriguez, you had your hand up before I go to the other side.
Thank you. I would just like to add that pushing a development along when sales aren't there. Clearly, the first 3 homes have been sitting there for quite some time without being sold. As a person living adjacent this subdivision, I would rather see no development than a bunch of empty homes trying to get sold. That to me invites more nefarious activities. It's more of a risk and a liability to the builders. So unless there are sales insured, I mean, it just seems more prudent to wait for those to happen before buildings do that. I mean, I don't even necessarily like the fact of swimming pools going up without anyone even living in facilities. So anyway, that's my comments.
Thank you. Councilor Wolbett?
No, I'd just like to see progress a little quicker. I guess we all would, but market conditions sometimes doesn't allow that. So the houses you are building are pretty good looking houses, and I don't think they're gonna be in the affordable, low priced houses that the government would like, but yeah, I'd just like to see you move along a little more, and I guess 4 or 5 new permits kind of gives us an idea that you are moving forward, so I don't have any issue with it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Van
Thank you,
Claver?
Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's all we can hope for is what our fine presenter has said. I mean, obviously they're doing what they can. Market is what it is sometimes. Yeah, we hope for the best.
Deputy?
Yeah, I don't see any benefit in not extending this, so.
Okay, council, you've heard the motion. We've had some good discussion. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you again, Rodney. We appreciate your input on that.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor.
Welcome. Okay, let's go to item 9.1. I have a motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that the correspondence items A to H related to recommended reading, routine approval, and information items not otherwise addressed by resolution be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. So council, that's A to H. We've got representatives from the Committee of Adjustment here, if there's any questions on that, or if there's anything in there that you'd like to pull, recognize, or discuss. I'm going to begin on my left. Councilor Wolbett.
No, sir.
Councilor Van Claveren.
Nothing for me, sir.
Deputy.
Nothing, sir.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Item E
Okay, item E.
is just explaining an update on some movement on some bills on the provincial level from Erds and Burles, which I believe we have. For
Integrity Commissioner.
integrity.
Okay, so you'd like to pull that out?
I think it's just
Just
recommended.
recommended.
There's no resolution.
Councilor Basie.
Nothing, sir. Thank you.
Councilor Bojan.
Nothing for me, thank you.
All right, with Councilor Rodriguez is recommended for reading on number E. Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, council, let's go to item 10, new business, beginning on my left. Anything related to planning? Councilor Wolbeck,
No, sir.
Van Claveren,
Not for me, sir. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor,
Nothing, thanks.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, sir. I have one question. There's development happening in Terrell. It's on, we call it Egremont instead of Old Lake Shore. And there seems to be a berm on the back side of it and a berm on the Egremont roadside. What is that?
We're on Mount Road.
So, this is where I'm terrible. Is it
Isn't it Lake Shore?
Old Lake Shore?
New Lake Shore.
No.
Oh, no,
You're
it's
talking about
it's the elms.
Elms.
I was gonna say, it's the elms.
Oh, nice rock. There.
Yes,
Oh,
that's the
yeah,
Alps.
the Alps property.
I remember the rock. What are those berms for? Are they permanent?
No.
Oh, okay,
Groundworks.
okay, so that will eventually
Good.
be done something like, okay, that was my only question.
Councilor Basie,
Nothing. Thank you.
Councilor Bolger.
Nothing for me, thank you.
All right, I have nothing as well under new business. So declare that item closed. Anything under closed session this evening?
No closed session items this evening.
Okay. Let's go to item 12.1. I have a motion by Councilor Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Bojan, that bylaw 13 of 2024 being a bylaw to confirm all resolutions. The council meetings held January 29th, 2024 be taken as read 3 times and finally passed. The mayor and clerk be authorized to sign said bylaw accordingly. Questions? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to item 13, motion by Councilor Basie, seconded by Councilor Rodriguez. The regular planning meeting be adjourned until the next regular planning meeting on Monday, February 26th, 2024, commencing at 5 p.m. Those in favor? Carried. So that concludes our regular planning meeting. We have 3 special planning meetings. First one is at 6 o'clock. Second one is 6:30 and a third one at 7. So at this time, council, we're going to take a half an hour break. I would ask you to actually be back in your chairs by 5 minutes to 6.
skate out to conquer the ice. A band of sisters on blades for the stars and stripes. Sitting down
Okay, good evening, everyone. And for those that are joining us virtually, we'd like to welcome you. This is our planning public meeting.
Your phone number so I can call you. Yeah, no.
It's our zoning bylaw amendment 3 of 2023 of 0 Hillsborough Road. Our agenda for those that are joining us in person. I would ask you to please ensure that your cell phones are shut off or put on vibrate, please. This meeting is being streamed live and recorded for public viewing on the town's YouTube page. Council, I go to item number 2 on the agenda. If you have a pecuniary interest or you perceive to have one, I would ask you to please clear it at the appropriate time. The purpose of the meeting this evening. Proposed zoning bylaw amendment that would amend the town of Plympton-Wyoming zoning bylaw to rezone the land municipally known as 0 Hillsborough Road from the existing residential 5, R-5, to a site-specific residential 7, R-7 zone. With the following exceptions. Number 1, minimum lot area of 1.68. Minimum unit area of 380 meters squared. Minimum unit frontage of 12 meters. Minimum unit depth of 30 meters for a lot coverage with frontage on a public street. Minimum unit front yard setback of 6 meters for a lot with frontage on a public street. Minimum exterior side yard setback 1.5 meters for a lot on a public street, and minimum rear yard depth of 5 meters. The zoning bylaw amendment is to permit a plan of condominiums consisting of single detached dwelling as shown in the attached preliminary vacant land concept plan that was provided by the applicant. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce those that will be taking part in this evening's meeting. Beginning on my left, I have Councillor Bob Wolbett, Mr. John Van Claveren, Deputy Mayor Nettie McEwen, our CAO, Mr. Adam Sabansky, Clerk Aaron Kowalczyk, Councillor Christian Rodriguez, Councillor Mike Vasey, Councillor Alex Bojan. For staff this evening, we have Treasurer Norma Roddy-Crease, our planners, Randy Burke, Senior Planner Patty Richardson, and of course, we have Mr. Paul De Silva, our Director of Public Works, and Lisa Smeekins, our planning technician, who's also running the operations as well. So if we go to item 5.1, called the confirmation of notification process. Official notice was mailed to neighboring property owners with 120 meters of the subject lands and posted on the town's website on December the 22nd, 2023. Official notice posted on the site on December the 29th, 2023, and emailed to the required agencies on January the 4th, 2024. That was ZBA 3 of 2023 notice of the public meeting, ZBA 3 of 2023 notification area map, and a notice posted on 0 Hillsborough Road. To the planning technician, I would ask, can you confirm that that has been done?
Yes, I can confirm that all that information is correct.
All right. So council, we're going to go to item 6 on the agenda, 6.1. A motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen, that the report by Randy Burke, planner, dated January the 22nd, 2024, regarding the zoning bylaw amendment application 3 of 2023, affecting lands known as 0 Hillsborough Road, submitted by Southside Construction Management, be received. We have our planner, Ms. Burke, with us this evening.
Thank you.
Burke, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So yes, as mentioned, Southside Construction Management has submitted a zoning bylaw amendment to change the subject limits from residential 5 to residential 7 with special inspections of the zoning bylaw amendment. And the purpose is to facilitate a plan of condominium consisting of 27 single detached dwelling. A planning report was provided, so I will just kind of do a brief overview of what was in the report. So on these subject lands in March of 2023, an official plan amendment, OPA 55 specifically, redesignated the property from restricted agricultural area to lakeshore residential in the town official plan. During official plan amendment 55, the report provided by the planner at the time, it was stated that a zoning bylaw amendment application would be required to facilitate future development. And in that OPA report, there was a preliminary concept plan attached, which was identical to what is here. So it's not a new plan kind of seen by council nor the public. The application was analyzed against all relevant planning legislation, including the County of Lambton official plan. The county official plan designates the property as a secondary settlement area, which is usually not the focus of growth and development due to the lack of services. However, this property has full municipal services available. Therefore, the section 3.2.12 states that when a level of municipal services are available, a lot can be subject to policies outlined in the urban settlement area without a county official plan. So therefore, urban settlement areas in the county plan are a focus of growth and development. So those policies would take place there. Again, as mentioned in the town of Plympton-Wyoming official plan, due to official plan 55, the property is designated lakeshore residential. The lakeshore residential designation permits low density residential up to 12.5 units per net residential hectare. However, the town official plan states that densities of 20 units may be allowed to maintain neighborhood characteristics. This development specifically is proposing a density of 15.7 units per net residential hectare. A spatial analysis was done by the applicant's planner. And it did find that along Ann and Dunbar Street that approximately 15 units per net residential hectare was the density there. This did exclude natural hazard lands, but that is as per policy 4.1.13 of the town OP would be to exclude those lands when doing that calculation. As well, the zoning bylaw request would change the property from an R5 to an R7-1. Exceptions from zoning provisions are not uncommon, and the R7 zone does allow for the plan of condominium consisting of single detached dwellings. Staff are proposing some changes to what was being proposed. I think Lisa's going to put up the table there now in a second showing what being proposed and what staff are kind of recommending. So we do recommend a couple changes to minimum lot area, lot frontage, minimum front yard, rear yard, and lot coverage. This is because based on the plan provided, a number of the policies were kind of for 1 or 2 lots, and we think that this is doable based on the lot size and could just be more appropriate for the location. It is also to be noted, as I know there was a couple correspondence, a traffic impact study was provided as well as an archaeological study, and no concerns were found in those. And then with that, planning staff are recommending the approval of bylaw 3 of 2023 as presented and revised by staff. If there's any questions.
Can I have council just hold off those questions, because I've got a couple other things.
Oh, sure.
So that's fine. We'll come back with some, okay? So, thank you, Ms. Burke, for that presentation. Is Laura Jameson from Zelenka Priamo, the agent, available?
Yes, I'm on Zoom today. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And welcome, Laura. I just was wondering, is there anything that you would like to add at this time before we move ahead? Are you comfortable with what our planner has shared?
Yes, I have. I do have a brief presentation that I would like to share, though, just verbally.
Sure, go right ahead.
Perfect. Thank you very much. As you are aware, my name is Laura Jameson. I am a planner with Zelenka Priamo here on behalf of the developer Southside Construction Management. I'm also joined by Lucas Grabowski from AGM, the engineer on the project, to present our proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Firstly, we would like to thank staff for their time and consideration of this application. We've collaborated with staff throughout the process and appreciate their hard work. Though the lands are currently used for cash crops, the subject lands of the zoning bylaw amendment application are designated for residential purposes in both the County of Lambton official plan and the Town of Plympton-Wyoming official plan. The proposed development will not take away from the agricultural inventory in Plympton-Wyoming. The subject lands are proposed to be developed with 27 single detached dwellings under condominium ownership. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment considers the development of the lot as a whole and the development of the individual unit parcels with site-specific regulations to accommodate the proposed condominium development. We understand there were concerns about the proposal, particularly relating to servicing, drainage, traffic, and density, and I hope to relieve some of those concerns. As part of the application package, a servicing brief was prepared by AGM, which analyzed the existing sanitary and water services in the area. Testing confirmed that there was sufficient capacity in the sanitary sewers on Townsend Line and Hillsborough Road, and in the downstream pumping station to accommodate flows from the development. The water main and hydrants were also analyzed to determine if the existing capacity was adequate to support the proposed development. The testing found the water main could appropriately service the daily needs of the development. However, the minimum fire supply requirements were not met. In order to increase the water flows, Plympton-Wyoming and Lambton Shores agreed to create a looped system in order to improve the performance for fire flows. This will be an improvement to the existing conditions for the entire neighborhood. There were concerns related to drainage from the development and the environmental impacts on surrounding lands. The proposed development has a stormwater management pond, which will accept runoff generated by the development. The pond is designed to discharge water to the natural outlet at less than or equal to the existing levels to ensure that there are no adverse impacts on neighboring properties caused by drainage issues. There's also a filtration system built into the pond to remove harmful suspended materials to prevent their release into the ecosystem. As part of the submission package, a traffic impact brief was prepared to assess the effect of the proposed development on area traffic operations at key intersections. The proposal shows 8 homes with direct access to Townsend Line, and the rest of the development was proposed to be serviced by an internal road. Traffic from other new developments in the area were also considered. The report ultimately concluded that the study intersections would continue to operate appropriately, and no additional traffic control improvements were warranted for the proposed development. The subject lands are intended to accommodate residential development, and the 27 single detached dwellings proposed on the subject lands achieve this goal while maximizing existing public infrastructure. The proposed development would have a density of approximately 15 units per hectare, which is roughly the same density as the dwellings in the surrounding area if you consider the area of developable land. Furthermore, the proposed housing sizes, as shown in the concept plan, are comparable to the size of the houses in the neighborhood. This density can be achieved on the subject lands with appropriate municipal servicing, which was not available when the surrounding lands were being developed, which makes efficient use of public services. The proposed zoning change to R7 is intended to accommodate a condominium development consisting of single detached dwellings, which maintains the character of the existing single detached dwellings in the neighborhood. Most of the proposed site-specific regulations are technical in nature and will not change the appearance of the development once constructed. Staff have proposed alternative site-specific provisions. We've had a chance to review them, and we agree with the proposed bylaw and recommendation brought forward by Plympton-Wyoming staff. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. I'm here to answer any questions you may have, and I may also call on Lucas if there's a technical question. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jameson. Planning technician, we've received some correspondence from 8 individuals or groups. Did all of the council receive those as well?
Yes, there were 6 emails and 2 letters. They were provided to all of council. They are also available for the public to view. They are linked to the agenda for this meeting. And if anyone who is present in person at this meeting would like to review them, I do have a printout of each one as well.
All right, thank you. Okay, council, so at this time, I'm now opening the council questions up for council that you may have, either of our planner or Ms. Jameson. After that, we will going into questions from the public and those that have asked to speak as well. We're going to begin on my left, Councillor Lovett. You have any questions on this or concerns?
Right off the bat, Townsend Line is not the most improved road that my experience, it's not in very good shape to begin with, so I don't know if this condominium complex, I don't know what road study they did, but certainly that road is in bad shape, needs to be redone, so I think that needs to be looked at. The roads need to be certainly in good enough condition to support, well, that's another 27 or 28 houses, so I've been making some complaints about Townsend Line here, the road, guys, so that'd be one issue. The other issue I would have here is creating more lots. We have, my understanding, quite a few lots in this municipality. Not sure if we're at our limit, but we were for a few years there. So I'm not sure just how many more lots that we need to produce here, especially since we've seen the slowdown in real estate. We've got subdivisions now that certainly are not built out, not even close to being built out. The other thing that we've been told at these council meetings that it's affordable housing that we should be concentrating on in all of our communities throughout Canada, not just our area. I don't see this as being affordable housing in any which way. Certainly they're trying to get as many lots into this area as they possibly can by putting 20 houses per hectare. I'm not so sure that may meet the requirements, but when you're driving out in that area, there's a lot of places out there got an awful lot bigger lots than what's being proposed here. So maybe some of the smaller cottages don't have the older cottages. So I'm not sure that's not an issue. But my biggest thing is how many more lots do we need? And the other thing I'll say finally is, are these condominiums going to sell out there? Are these condominiums? I mean, I guess that's not our problem here. It's a developer to sell them, but we already have one in the municipality now that's certainly not selling everything out. So I think that's an issue. Are they going to be saleable? And if this town's going to take on the responsibility of approving that subdivision, we need to make sure that saleable property. I'll stop there for now.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Van Cloud.
We'll have some questions, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if I'll voice them right now because I think our folks in the gallery will ask some of those questions and I'll allow them to do that rather than do it on their behalf. So I'll just pass for now.
Okay, thank you. Deputy?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Can somebody explain this loop system for the water? I have no idea how that's gonna work.
If I may, I'll ask our CAO, who I think may have have some information on that.
I don't know what stage Paul's at on this file, so I do have all the background information, if that's all right. So we did ask the developer to look into whether or not the property can be serviced with proper fire flows. We noted that the town has a dead end 6-inch water main that runs down Hillsborough Road. And that we had concerns that the fire flows for a new development may be challenging. During flow testing, our concerns were proven correct that our water main by itself could not provide adequate fire flows to meet today's standards. So they modeled with utilizing the 4-inch water main from Plympton Shores, connecting to our 6-inch so that you have a loop system, so you could draw water from 2 sides. What they found is they believe that they can meet the minimum fire flows when the systems are looped. Plympton Shores Director of Public Works and myself, when I was in that role, did have a discussion and agreed in principle that the connecting the 2 mains would be beneficial to the community, and said that we would work together to develop an agreement, whether that means Plympton-Wyoming taking over the main or if there's a meter chamber installed, but both parties were willing to have further discussions. However, there's no formal agreement in place as of today.
Okay, still don't know how it's gonna work, but I guess you've tried to explain it.
You have 6 inches of worth of water volume coming from one side by itself. You add another
That's our
4
side,
inches,
or-
our side, you add another 4 inches diameter of water coming from Lambton Shores. And when they meet at the hydrant, you have more volume of
And
water.
it's only at the hydrant that this is, and it's the only concern is about the fire.
Correct. They can meet domestic levels. They can't
Okay.
meet fire flow levels.
All right, thank you. That explain things much better. There was a stormwater management pond there. I just wonder, I don't know how this drainage is gonna work up there, but we already have a stormwater management pond in our woods. And I wonder if this ever goes through, that there's been a concern about a play area for kids. And if this could be drained to the storm management pond, same as it, and then it'd be a play area when it's dry, so. I suggest that, if we can look into that. Probably have to speak with, Laura?
I think that's something that staff would want to review the design of the stormwater management pond and then work with the developer's consultant to see if there's a possibility to make the dry pond shallow enough that it could support some active play. It would depend on the dimensions of the pond itself.
Okay. And if this goes through, there's also the clauses about, you know, the beach properties and that there's no public beach access. And everybody in that proposed subdivision needs to know that. That has to be registered on title for each lot. So those are my concerns right now.
All right, thank you, Deputy. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Worship. So I had several. This is secondary settlement and not the focus of grow. We have a 30 to 40 year supply of land available. The only housing problem we currently are having is affordability. Efficient land use includes environmental considerations, although site specific noted, the surrounding environment has not been given enough consideration, in my opinion. While anything west of Lakeshore is slated for housing, what type of housing is considered will have an impact on the local environment and ecosystem. Ironically, west of Lakeshore is also the most sensitive ecosystem we have in Plympton-Wyoming. Keeping within the R5 status allows for more green space for Lakeshore residential, I think is another term. Allows for more green space for vegetation and canopy cover, vital to this area due to its close proximity to Lake Huron. This is a major migratory bird path to over 400 species, some endangered or at risk, as well as being vital to bats and other wildlife also, which some are endangered. High density infrastructure equals higher capacity outflows to the lake, causing further stressors on the delicate body of water and the adjacent shoreline and lands. It will also cause further stress due to lack of green space in the proposed development area. Even with mitigation measures, not all groundwater is captured, hence the need for more green space for natural absorption. Mitigation is critical for long-term stability and in keeping with our commitment to address climate change. The document states sewer and water services are available and is a key consideration when looking at secondary settlement. But the infrastructure, specifically water, is not available at a capacity required. It is being suggested that the development utilize water from Lambton Shores in conjunction with PUW to meet the standards. Therefore, it does not meet the criteria noted that it has to have municipal services within the boundary of the settlement area. Outside sources decrease reliability and control and drive up the cost to homeowners. This area of Lambton Shores has not built up yet, and should it choose to do so in the future, this will also have a negative impact on the proposed shared service. This does nothing, excuse me, to address affordability through mixed housing uses. The highest taxed residential base in PW is west of Lakeshore, and it is solely based on location and perception in the marketplace. A smaller home does not equal an affordable home. If we just take a look at 1,000 sided cottage that has a price tag of $799 in another development. High density is normally focused as infill when land supply is strained. When looking at higher density, it is fundamental to put people and public spaces at the heart of urban design. Higher density housing is traditionally infill in areas that are considered to be a whole community, which means to promote in areas where amenities like public transit, walking business to shopping, medical, alternative transportation modes, parks, recreation, etc. are located. It is noted on page 134 of the developer's justification report that there are pedestrian barriers. It is also noted on the same page that the closest beach access is 4 kilometers down the road, namely Highland Glen, which I just wanted to note is not designated as a safe harbor. Nothing is convenient in this location except for its proximity to forest, as noted several times. A note on page 136 of the developer's justification report seems to conflict with what is being asked for here. It states that the project will provide low density and will be sensitive to and conform to and be in keeping with the surrounding low density development. When looking for justification, a need in the community for this and the desire to achieve efficient use of land and development patterns, protect the environment, facilitate economic growth, I cannot find anything to support this ask at this point. It's secondary development, not focused to grow. Our land supply is great. I don't see an efficient use of land due to no identified needs, the market or environmental concerns. I don't see how it needs infill within reach of being an urban center, lacks recreational amenities, alternative transportation, they're close to major employment centers. Lack of a whole community, lack of PW municipal services required to facilitate economic growth. R5 residential provides for the same in regards to tax-based growth. Developers report supports economic growth in forest. It does not meet the definition of low density as per the developer's desire to stay within the period. And it does not meet affordability to the location, higher taxes, higher cost of living and commuting.
Thank you. Mr. Vacy?
I think I agree with that. I've got here, I just don't understand why we're looking to change from R5 to R7 and then turn around and ask for 7 major changes within the R7. In R5, we say no condos. So we're gonna change to R7 and then give them 7 major changes so that to allow for condo. I just don't see it. Makes no sense to me to be adding a high density area to the northernmost part of our services. As stated, the water and everything else. I did have a question about the Townsend line. We have sewers going down Townsend line?
Townsend, just Hillsborough.
So what? There was comment about enough sewers on Townsend. Is that hooking into horses as well?
No, the sanitary sewer is ours. We do have a pumping station that interconnects the Hillsborough neighborhood with the Lakeside neighborhood and then pumps it to the west.
Right. In there, they did talk about the consistencies with the neighborhood, which I don't agree with when you're taking into consideration it was done 100 years ago and it's a private association in there so they could establish what they wanted. And now we're using that little uniqueness that it's a tight little community and we're going to try and change it by adding a condominium beside it. So as I've stated before, we need to protect these little communities and I'm not in favor of this at all.
Thank you. Welcome, Councilor Bojan.
Thank you, Worship. I guess at the expense of repeating everything else, I would just agree that I think this is another good exercise in how I think density is important, but we're building out and then in instead of in and then out. So similar to what Councilor Fahey just said, it's our most further north area. But we're gonna try to make it one of the more dense areas and kind of Mickey Mouse it to make the water pressure work and all this stuff. When, if you're looking at finding density, you're probably gonna do it in your core, especially if you're a city. Whereas for us, like Councilor Rodriguez said too, our affordable housing is gonna come from mixed use housing. I do think smaller houses, of course, will sell less than a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. Naturally, the market will say that a smaller house will be more affordable. But from a density perspective, I just don't think this is where we need to try to have density. So I don't really have anything else much further to add than that.
Thank you, Council. Good question. So now I'm going to go to presentations or comments from those that are attending virtually. I will remind you, you have 5 minutes each. The first that I have on the agenda is Ted and Sandra Vanas. Would you be prepared to speak, either Ted or Sandra?
Yes, we would, if you can hear us.
Yes, we can. Go right ahead, Ted.
5
minutes.
Okay, all right. Now, we're both encouraged by the some of the comments from the councilors, because we agree with a lot of that. Cramming in 27 homes on this, relatively small lot, did it make sense to us, and why you would change the the zoning to accommodate that. We agree with a lot of the concerns that you guys have expressed.
And if there are other small homes in the area, they're probably cottages. It's not really in keeping with the community.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of our concern, along with a lot of the beach rights and all those other areas.
Okay. Good. That's all you have, Ted?
Yeah.
That's it.
All right.
I said a lot we agreed with.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Next, I have Paul and Michelle Elliott. Are you available, either Paul or Michelle?
Good evening, everyone. I sent a brief letter and I'm liking the way this meeting is going with council. Sounds like they've done a great amount of research. I don't want to keep a lot of anyone's time, but several emails were sent in. I believe we all share in the same. We're opposing to this idea. And did anyone think of the tax base increase? Should this go through? Somebody's got to pay for it. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Next, I have Brian Wilmers, who is an executive committee member of the Hillsborough Beach Association. Brian, I see you on there. Welcome. I believe you could be muted there, Brian. There you go.
How's that? Is that good?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm going to take my 5 minutes because we've put a lot of work into looking at this thing from the Hillsborough Beach Association perspective. And we're, as you know, a 120-year-old community of 68 homes and cottages. I wrote you all a letter with some of these details in it, but I just want to go over them. We did meet with the planners, Burke and Richardson, to ask some questions. And we received the big agenda package with a lot of detail in it on Thursday. So it was a bit of a rush putting it all together. The first thing is just a housekeeping thing. It gets very confusing under your R7 zoning that the developer is asking for. The lot is the entire 1.6 hectare square of land there. The units are the little, what we would normally call lots within that large lot, but they're called units. They're not houses yet. They're units on a lot. So understanding that, the printout that was posted and sent out to everyone had this litany of exceptions shown that the developer is asking for if you grant him the R7 zoning. And we know he owns the lot, and we know possibly something's going to go on there. We also know the process from past experience of the land tribunal's ability to his ability to appeal to the land tribunal, and we're trying to avoid that sort of a situation. So we're kind of going at the details and why we think some severe changes should be made to that plan if in fact you allow it to go to R7. The first one is huge. What's missing in this list of exceptions is what R7 actually requires. So the first one is minimum lot area 1.68. That's what's there in the whole lot. R7 requires a 10-hectare lot, and this lot is 1.68 hectares. So that very first exception is huge, although we aren't arguing. It's a 1.6 hectare lot. That's what he's got. All the rest of the exceptions, if you look at what's actually required by R7, these are all things to increases the density on that lot. And that's basically where we have the problem. The official plan, which I showed in my letter that is quoted in several of the studies, policy 5.2 says 12.5 units per hectare maximum for R7. It talks about 15.7 and also 20 only to maintain neighborhood character. And we're here to say that this development as proposed with 27 units on this lot does not maintain neighborhood character. And I think you've echoed that in some of your astute comments that the council's already made. In the alternate exceptions that your staff has required, they've eased up a little bit on some of the developers' exceptions, but we don't think they go far enough. We would like to see the density held, if this thing ever went through, held to 12.5 units per hectare, which is what the policy states for a condominium in an R7 area. If you look at your zoning map, Part 7, Schedule A, which is on your maps of the zoning bylaw, and you look at the area of Hillsborough Beach North, which is immediately adjacent to this property, and which is quoted, and I've put it in bold on the letter, and the developer just talked about it. When assessing the density, they exclude in the density number the natural hazard land. It says it in parentheses. It says it in your Plympton-Wyoming planning report. It says it in the developer's report. If you exclude from Hillsborough North the natural hazard land, much of the land there gets taken out of the equation, which is why they can try to say that this development is similar in density. In actuality, it is not. Look at a Google aerial map. Hillsborough North, we have 27 cottages in there, coincidentally enough. But almost half of that land is natural hazard land. You can't take that out and say, oh, we're okay if you take all that land out. We aren't that dense. I happen to own a half an acre in there, and half of my lot is natural hazard. So if you take off half my lot and my cottage is left, it's a totally different and we think misleading density number. The other part that we noticed that maybe, I don't know how you could make play area out of a retention pond, but they show that there should be a 20% landscape open space. We don't see that on the plan. The next one is huge, and you've heard it. We had 2 100-year rains last summer in that area. That entire field was full of water, and there's no impervious surface there yet. So the rainstorms, as has been mentioned, we are getting are much more severe than they have been in the past, and they will continue to get worse. And we are having a hard time figuring out how, even with a retention pond that fills with water, when we get 3 inches of rain in an hour, like we got last summer, that's going to fill up with water and then slowly flow out. That's the intent. I'm afraid that pond's going to overflow. And it's going to affect not only Hillsborough North, but the very development that's built there. The old flow rates are now not adequate to handle these new climate rainstorms that we're getting. So that brings us to our next point, and again, this one is a real sore spot with us. We met with you a year ago, and we got confirmation from the developer that there would be no public beach access built along Townsend Line, and there would be no access to the beach. Yet in the developer's report, and I quote the report that it was in, he says that the subject lands are an appropriate location for the proposed development and have convenient access to the Lake Huron shoreline. And this is exactly what we supposedly had a confirmation that they are not. As you've stated, your beautiful Highland Glen Recreation Area is the closest public access. We're afraid, again, that these are going to be marketed, and in some way, the folks that have that purchase these lots and small houses, whatever they may be, we don't know the size of the houses, 1, 2-story, have no idea. We're afraid that this access to the lake will not be properly won't be properly imposed on them. If you, we hope you don't, but if you approve an R7 zoning with whatever exceptions you allow, we think that we need to have 2 exceptions in there as well. And one is that Hillsborough Beach is a private community that holds deeded ownership and pays municipal taxes and maintains its roads, rights of way, and beaches, and that these private properties and beaches will not be available to the inhabitants nor be used to market this condominium for beach access. And the second one, similarly to what we said last winter, and Luis Estevez did a report that backs up that there would be no public beach access of any type proposed or built in perpetuity on the Townsend Road allowance that allows people to access make a public beach access down to that private beach area. That is all on record, but it seems to be ignored, and we'd like to make sure that whatever you approve, now or in the future, we have those caveats in writing as boilerplate in those agreements. Again, we hope you reject the whole thing for all the reasons you've already cited, but that's basically where we are. I think my cohort Warren is going to talk to this idea of hooking up to a separate municipality's water system to cover the fire. I think Warren will cover that. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak to you once again.
You're welcome. Thank you, Brian. Go next to Sarah Mix. Sarah, are you on the line?
I am, thank you. And I would like to just echo everything that Brian has said to you. And I guess especially as well related to the stormwater management. Like you said, Brian, there has been an increase in extreme rainfall events. And I just have a hard time believing that flowing out the existing infrastructure, whatever's there, it just seems like it'll be detrimental to the adjacent properties. So I know for myself, I'd be interested in learning a bit more about what's planned in that area, and I'm sure the adjacent properties would as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sarah. I'm going to go to Warren Hudson, as president of the Hillsborough Association. Warren, I will remind you, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't plan to take 5 minutes. Brian did an excellent job. My family has been at Hillsborough in some capacity for 4 generations. And I want to thank the counselors. I think all of you guys asked diligent questions. You know, Hillsborough is a primarily seasonal community, and many of us aren't voters, but it means so much to us that you guys have our best interests at heart, and that doesn't go unnoticed. You know, and I think the overarching theme here, if this was just a few houses, if this was a rational development that might be permitted in an R5, I don't think that this discussion would be quite as passionate as it is. But as several people have already stated, this is cramming a lot of homes into a small area, and it really is going to change the entire dynamic of the area. Just a couple points that I don't want to beat a dead horse on the points that everyone's already talked about, but number one, the concept, I was in development in Michigan for 10 years, and I'm very familiar with fire flows and developing property. The concept of tying the Plympton-Wyoming water system to the Lambton Shores water system just seems kind of crazy to me, because we're going to end up with a blend of water at Hillsborough, some of it coming from Lambton, some of it coming from Plympton. If they ever had an issue with their water system, lost pressure, had a boil water notice, anything like that, it's going to impact not only us, but presumably other people in your water system as well. And I think from a practical standpoint, the two water systems are never going to be at the same pressure. So there's always going to be water flowing from one to the other. It just seems like sort of a logistical nightmare. Again, to make it work, to fit this many houses in, it just seems like sort of a crazy solution. Another thing, and again, it's been mentioned, but the development plans have a pretty comprehensive plan of the stormwater going into the pond and then into the road allowance. But after the road allowance, they just show a head wall, a concrete head wall, and the water pouring down the bluff. And right now, with no impervious surface, when you get a heavy rain, there's quite a bit of erosion that happens there, and the water all ends up in the lake with mud and debris and everything else. This is going to exacerbate that tenfold, and it's really going to deteriorate the beach conditions there and the water quality. So that's an issue. And then the last thing, just in terms of services, one of the councilors pointed out, this development is at the furthest extent of Plympton-Wyoming. We had an unfortunate occasion at Hillsborough a few years ago where we had a cottage that burned, and it took 2 other cottages with it. Plympton-Wyoming has a phenomenal volunteer fire department, and they do a great job. But the fact is, on a good day, if they were sitting at the station ready to go, they're 10 minutes away. This property is not well serviced, I would argue. And having houses that, in many cases, as dense as Hillsborough is, these houses are even closer. They're 3 meters away from each other. At 10 feet, it looks to me like sort of a disaster waiting to happen in terms of a safety standpoint. And then finally, someone brought up in an email, I think it was a really good point. We, Hillsborough, and the Hilltop community paid for the water and sewer in this area. And everyone did that, I think, thinking that there was a risk for further development down the road, but we did it in good faith because everything was zoned R5 or agricultural. Now that this is being rezoned, I don't know if everyone would have contributed the money that they did to support water and sewer in that area, knowing that this would happen down the road. So anyway, I'll conclude my statements, but I really do want to thank the councilors for their questions. And I do want to thank city staff too. I appreciate the planners meeting with us and explaining what was being proposed here. So thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hudson. There seems to be a lot of discussion points brought up about the water issue. Before we proceed on, I want to ask Mr. Sabansky, you were probably involved with that discussion. Is there anything more you can share with us on that? I think we all have some concerns.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Hudson. I just wanted to make sure that the whole community has the same amount of information. So the the Lambton Shores main, which they're proposing to connect into, and the current main on Hillsborough Road, which your community gets its drinking water from, actually come off the same supply line. So they're only half a kilometer apart. They're both supplied from the Lambton area water supply system. And that system runs at a similar pressure all the way from eastern Sarnia to Forest. So there wouldn't necessarily be a difference in the water quality because it's all drawing the water from the same main. In regards to paying for the water, the town of Plympton-Wyoming has maintained its bylaws that were created when the water system was put into place. And any person who develops new lots is required to pay those frontage and connection fees, similar to as those who initially helped pay for those water main systems. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone had the same information.
Thank you, Mr. Sabansky. Next up, I have Stephen and Nan Cox, please.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I won't need the full 5 minutes. Thanks to the the great efforts of our executive at Hillsborough Beach, which is where our property is. I would just also thank the counselors for, I think, correctly identifying all our issues really before we even spoke in the public. But just to emphasize, not to beat a dead horse again, but as has been brought up by Brian and Warren, I think the two biggest issues from our point of view are the drainage problem, and I was there for those 100-year storms last summer, and it was already bad enough, and it's going to get worse. And I've been at Hillsborough for multiple generations as well, and have certainly never seen this level of erosion from simple rainstorms due to the volume. And I also have trouble, notwithstanding the studies, believing that this won't have a catastrophic further effect on that. And I'd also like to second what Brian brought up, which has been an ongoing concern, which is the developer continually stating that this is not going to be marketed as having beach access, but it seems like clearly that's happening anyway. And that's just destined to create problems in the future. And since the deeded property at Hillsborough is private, and we as a community don't want to get into being the police and having to like walk the area and make sure people live there, that's just not a good community. It's not helping the community. And I think it's, as Brian said, this needs to be a deed restriction. This needs to be abundantly clear, which brings me back to what the counselor raised earlier, which is the sellability of these units. Because if they don't have beach access, frankly, between you and me, I'm not sure why you'd want to live there when you're, a few yards from Hillsborough North, where they do have beach access. And I think that's just creating conflict. With that, I thank the the council members and the staff for obviously having done the research on this, and cede the rest of my time. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Stephen. And next go to Brian Cox. Brian, are you available?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
You hear me okay?
I sure can.
Okay, yeah. I think a lot of my questions have been answered. I know everyone's put a lot of work into this meeting and going through a number of different things here. One of the concerns that I did raise was in the letter I wrote, or the email I addressed in, was in regards to, we have to follow a lot of things regarding the St. Clair Conservation Area, and putting a pond in where there's natural agricultural today that has its own drainage. Once we populate that with the proposed X number of units, whether it's an R5 or R7, is going to cause issues with the flow of water. And how does that impact? And is St. Clair Shores involved with that? I think I included in with my letter was a sample of where they've deeded as hazardous lands. So has that been any impact or any study done with, or any recollection with St. Clair Conservation Authority?
Personally, I'm not aware of that. Defer to our planners. Are either of you aware of anything along that line that St. Clair's been involved?
So through you, the Conservation Authority, so I guess I should have mentioned that there will, if this moves forward, there will need to be a plan of condominium application coming in as well. So a number of concerns can be addressed for there, especially in terms of servicing. That's when we'll probably circulate with Conservation Authority, and they will have their ability to provide any comments. If their comments have anything that would restrict the development, then those would be addressed accordingly, and usually follow through with the Conservation Authority as well. So that would kind of be their time to comment.
Nothing has been done yet. It will be at the next stage.
Not at this moment.
Yeah, I think before any designation moves forward, whether it's changing the designation, that should be taken into consideration, though, not after it's been rezoned. I think that should be a consideration now before we look into it. But having said that, I do want to thank the Hillsborough executive and the council for doing a thorough job on this. And I'll conclude at that.
Good. Thank you, Brian. Next, I have Debbie Harrison Rumberger and Gail Harrison. Gail.
She's on video.
Okay.
And I'm here,
Okay.
and I'm cuter. She's my twin, you'll see.
So who is speaking? Is she going to, or you?
She's going to first.
All right. Debbie, you're up next.
Well, would you rather I spoke first?
It's between you two.
Because I don't know where she went, but she was there just a second ago.
She's on. I don't think she realizes her mic is muted.
Okay, Gail, I'd like you to go ahead and speak first and then I'll speak.
See? Her name.
So you do know you have 5 minutes combined, okay?
Right, and in the States, we only have 3, so this is really, I appreciate that we have 5 because I was gonna have to talk really fast. And take a drink.
It's not Lion celebration stuff you're drinking, is it?
And weren't the Lions great last night? No, you gotta admit, they came a long way. Okay. I am speaking as an adjacent property owner to strongly oppose the 0 Hillsborough rezoning change from residential 5, R5 to residential 7-1. The zoning category R7-1 appears to be a new zoning category designed specifically to meet the density demands of the developer, Southside Construction Management Limited. The proposed R7-1 zoning category ignores and eliminates the 10-hectare minimum parcel size for a project of this size in the existing residential 7 R7 zoning category. The current zoning of R5 does not allow subdivision development, nor would R7 under the current minimum lot size required, as the 0 Hillsborough parcel is a mere 1.72 hectares. The Hillsborough Hilltop communities have been established for over 100 years. And we've been there for 5 generations, so we beat the last one. No new development other than remodeling has occurred in over 60 years. The beach community is surrounded by agricultural lands with some sparsely developed large lot single-family residences to the south. The applicant's own aerial photographs included in this proposal reveal the low-intensity use of this and the surrounding areas. In March 2023, a request was made to change the zoning of this above stated parcel to R5 for purposes of bringing the parcel into compliance with the official plan. Adjacent and adjoining property owners were informed this change would not result in changes to the allowable use of the parcel. I spoke specifically with the planner. Upon receiving this information from the planning department, I and many others declined to oppose the R5 designation. The parcel has also been designated by the County of Lambton official plan a secondary settlement area in the County of Lambton official plan. Section 3.2.4 of the plan states that secondary settlement areas are existing built-up areas that are not to be the focus of growth. This is due to the lack of services often available in secondary settlement areas. The determination has been made by the planning department that this property being served by wastewater and potable water infrastructure now meets the definition of an urban settlement area. The change from secondary settlement area to urban settlement area was made without providing an opportunity for public input. And you all can correct me if that's wrong. But I didn't receive anything. We oppose this change on the following basis. The definition of urban settlement areas applied to areas not only served by water and wastewater infrastructure, but also proximity to public services such as fire protection, libraries, churches, stores, and community centers. The intent of this designation is to provide development opportunities around town centers that provide the infrastructure and services required to meet the needs of the expanding community. We feel the change from secondary settlement area to urban settlement area is inconsistent with the intent of the plan and oppose same in this writing as no public hearing or notice was given prior to changing this designation. I would hope, this is just me, I would hope that when we're talking about increasing density, that we are looking at climate impacts, we're looking at the footprint of adding all those vehicles to the road as opposed to increasing opportunities for development in areas that can create walkable communities and opportunities that don't stretch the requirements of the Wyoming Township to extend to the very far reaches of your jurisdiction for services. The residents of Hillsborough Beach community came together and supported the costly infrastructure improvements of wastewater and potable water supply at a great expense to themselves. The HBA acted on the improvements to increase environmental protection to the watersheds and the lake quality. They did so in good faith, recognizing that the addition of this infrastructure could lead to an increase in development pressure in the area. Relying on the plan, zoning, and bylaw regulation governing surrounding properties, the residents felt any development would comply with the existing regulations. And when a public hearing was held in March to bring the subject parcel into the R5 zoning category, the affected parties accepted the recommendation of staff to make this change. These are good faith efforts and investments by the people that are adjacent to the property that you're looking at developing. Now, here comes the developer, Southside Construction Limited, less than 10 months later to rezone the property again to allow the development of a subdivision consisting of 27 dwelling units on a 1.72 hectare parcel of land adjoining Hillsborough North. The only way the proposed project can be allowed is through the creation of an entirely new zoning category that appears to have been crafted to meet the demands of this particular developer. The project would not be allowed under either the current R5 zoning nor even under existing R7 category. The R7 category requires a minimum parcel size of 10 hectares. As stated, the subject property only consists of 1.72 and would not allow for the proposed development.
Gail, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but you've gone over your time. Is your sister going to be sharing anything?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, can I tell your sister she's extended her time?
Actually, I've never heard of a situation where only one person was allowed to speak because of why. I haven't been tied to her since birth. So I would appreciate if she could finish and if I could finish.
But I'm over my 5 minutes. Am I over 5 minutes?
Yeah, you are.
I should have been making jokes, huh? What about those lions? Okay, all of this
We
has
can
been
book you for
sent to
another
you for
meeting.
review. So I hope, what were you gonna say?
We can bring you back for entertainment later.
Okay, well, Debbie, I had to stop at somewhere along the line there.
Okay, Debbie, you're on.
We can all vote on who's the cutest.
Thank you. Do you think, yes. First off, I'd like to say that I find I am a AICP certified planner. I spent my life as a planning commissioner overseeing growth in Dade, Monroe, and Monroe counties in Florida, which are the Florida Keys. I have never seen anything quite as egregious as this development proposal that's been put forward. 8 according to the applicant and 9 according to your staff of these units would have direct access. Their driveways would go into Townsend Road between the dead end and the Townsend Hillsborough intersection. So the ability to have a walkable community as we now do, the ability to have bike activity and people enjoying the outdoors would be significantly reduced. Additionally, the density size is, we aren't even talking about, and the reason that was done, I'm assuming, is because they couldn't fit 27 units in if they had to provide adequate interior roads for all of their units. So that to me is egregious. It's disqualifying. The other thing that I would like to focus on is the comments about the state of the road of both Townsend, and the developer has only included Townsend Road as part of its study analysis. And they're claiming that the majority of the new residents would use that road to access Lakeshore because Hillsborough is meandering. I would tell you, as someone who's been driving those roads for over 60 years now, that the majority of residents who are going to Brights Grove or to Sarnia are turning right on Hillsborough, and they are taking Hillsborough down to Lakeshore. And the reason they do that, not only because it's, you know, a beautiful little drive, but because it is 3 miles shorter to go straight out Hillsborough to Lakeshore than it is to go out to Townsend. So even in the traffic analysis, I have concerns. I appreciate that there has been talk about what kind of disrepair both Townsend and Lakeshore in. It goes not just to the vehicle traffic that's coming and going from any development, but it also goes to the construction trucks that would be required in order to be able to go and build those houses. So I think there's a blanket underestimation. The proposed project is completely out of character with the community. It is the furthest service area from Wyoming. I recommend in the strongest terms that we go ahead and that you as a council, and I appreciate this very much, reject this increase in density that is only taken away from existing property owners in the Plympton-Wyoming area. And I thank you for your time.
Good. Thank you, Debbie. Okay, next I have is Will Robson. Will, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, 1 second here.
We can hear you.
Okay. Yes, there is. I just actually very little. There's been a lot of great points tonight, I think, and I think the just the magnitude of them, I think, kind of tells a story, right? Between environmental concerns, lack of services for a new residential area, the density comparisons that we talked about tonight were really apples to oranges. The density of this new development compared to the surrounding environment, it just is not the same. Beach access and on and on and on. So it just, my wife and I definitely oppose a change in the R5 to accommodate this particular development. And it just feels like we're trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. And yeah, so anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to say that, and thanks for the work on the council.
Okay, thank you, Will. My second last one is Jeffrey Hudson. Jeffrey? Jeffrey Hudson, are you there?
I'm with my father, and he says thank you for all your hard work, and he reiterates everyone's concerns that were brought up so far.
Boy, Jeff, you sound a lot like Warren. All right. Thank you. My last one is Margaret and Werner Scholey. You're here in person. Is there anything you'd like to say before we move on?
No, I think everything was said so far on our concern from the council and from you. We oppose for this subdivision.
Right. Thank you very much. Yes, Lisa.
I would just like to note that there was a comment received through the Zoom messenger. It was from Sarah, who spoke earlier in the meeting. She just wanted to note that Earlier, council had questioned if lots in this area would even sell. So she thought it was important to note that there are 7 lots along Hillsborough that are adjacent to the proposed development, all of which are serviced that have been for sale for a couple of years and none of which have sold.
Just as an FYI for us. Yes, Warren.
We own this property north of Thousand Line since 20 years now. And I think everyone is aware that the beach is not public, it's private. The water, highest water mark of 18 something, I don't know exactly. So we put a lot of trouble, a lot of work in keeping the beach in this normal environmental concept. Keeping in mind we have about eagles here, keeping in mind that deers roaming around. And I think it would be a shame to give up this kind of special area for development, which maybe cause just problems for the beach owners, so called. So they think they have access to the beach. But right now there's no access, public access to the beach between this northern peak of Plymouth and say the end of lot 2082, I think. So we lived there for 20 years now, and I think it would be a shame to develop big housing projects so close to the beach.
Thank you, Warner, for sharing that with us. Thank you. Okay, council, I'm going to move now to any further questions or comments from council. To my right, Councilor Bojan, anything from you?
Nothing further, but even if it were to stay R5, is there any recommendations from staff to make sure that we have these confirmations or more clarity about the beach use thing? Because I do remember very clearly last time as well that that idea was dispelled by the developer that this was not going to be an issue. And as a council here that's investing heavily in McEwen and Highland Glen for beach access, I think it's a fair thing to make sure that that gets further squashed here. Is there anything we can do to make sure that that issue is resolved regardless of what zoning it is?
I can address that for you. Sometimes when a land develops for subdivision or a condo, in the subdivision agreement, we put clauses in that the developer is required to tell prospective purchasers of this, and this. That, in my mind, is probably the best place and the only place we can do it. And I appreciate people suggesting that perhaps it could go in the zoning bylaw, but that's really not something that should be included in a zoning bylaw. But the subdivision agreement or the condominium agreement would be the appropriate place for that.
If I may add to that, council made their opinion very clear that the town of Plympton-Wyoming had no desire to allow beach access through the 33 feet of which we own of Townsend Line. So council has provided direction, staff have been following that direction and making that direction clear to the developer.
Thank you. That's everything I had.
Councilor Basie?
No, your worship, thank you.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you, your worship. So first, to touch on what Councilor Bojan has said, I believe that does exist in a plan of condominium. It's in Blue Point, where it was put in the subdivision agreement, the restricted access. In saying that, these companies market what they want to market, which is fully outside the control of what we do here. And in particular, that plan of condominium that's been ongoing for 10 years and has done absolutely nothing for showing that there really isn't a want or need in the community. They actually advertise this with a nice, wonderful video that takes out all the existing development along the lake shore and shows their little planned subdivision as if nothing else existed around it. And it's unfortunate, and this is what happens in marketing. So I hope, and by saying this, I hope that that does not happen. The other question, or I have a question regarding the services, because it does state in the official plan that if subdivision can be, development can be fully serviced within the settlement boundaries, which means Plympton, Wyoming, not Lambton Shores, in my mind. If the state R5 residential, would there still be an issue with the need for, either service sharing or upgrading the water services in that, proposed development, through some sort of subdivision agreement or by the developer? Services within. Is that still required if it's did not go to R7 but stayed at R5?
We'd have to review the modeling more. I can't answer that tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Questions at this time?
Councilor Van Claveren.
I have no further questions, Mr. Mayor. I will say that as a community, I think you've set the bar very high as to how to articulate and present your position. I've learned a lot personally, just listening to all of you and the opinions of my fellow councilors. So depending on where this goes, we'll see, but you folks have done very well, and keep up the good work. Yeah. That's all for me.
Councilor Welbeck.
Well, I think my comments are going to be that we have quite a list of concerns. Not only from my fellow councilors, but from you guys, a long list of concerns that need to be addressed. And one that really shocks me the most is that we haven't had St. Clair Conservation Authority involved to even talk about this land out there, because we've talked about that particular property in the past, and you know, the hazardous lands and stuff like that. So to me, whatever you do out along that lake, you have to have the Conservation Authority approve and their comments. Other than that, there's just a huge amount of stuff here on my list. And I gotta tell you this much, you can tell people all you want not to go near the beach, but I'll guarantee if there's water there, they'll migrate to the beach. I don't care who says they can't, they will. So that's all I'm gonna say. So they'll get to the beach.
All right, thank you, Councilor. So Council, this comes to time where we have to make a decision what we want to do. There's a motion on the table that we either approve it, defer it, or defeat it.
Right, that first motion is just for his first report.
Okay.
So we can do that one first.
All right.
And then the next one will be about
the
the
big one.
actual amendment.
Councilor, I'm going to go back to the first one I read, moved by Councilor Van Claveren, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen. Report by Randy Burke, planner, dated January 22nd, 2024, regarding the zoning bylaw amendment application 3 of 2023, affecting lands known as 0 Hillsborough Road, submitted by Southside Construction Management Limited, be received. That's to receive the report from Ms. Burke. Okay, all those in favor? Okay. Now we go to the item 12, the motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that the zoning bylaw amendment 3 of 2023, a bylaw to rezone the land municipally known as 0 Hillsborough Road from the existing residential 5 R/5 to a site-specific residential 7-1 R7-1 zone as advised by staff and taken as having been read 3 times. Finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Before we go for the vote, Ms. Burke and Ms. Richardson, just a point of protocol or procedure. If by happen council decided to defer it, what are we looking at?
Looking at as far as when it would come back, or I would think if council wants to defer it, they need to give staff some direction on what their expectations are if we return with the application. I mean, I'm hearing density, okay? Council needs to realize that the official plan does allow at least 12.5 units per hectare on that property. Okay, so I just did a little bit of quick math while we were all talking, and the R5 zone would be, if we took So the R5 zone establishes a minimum lot frontage and a minimum lot area. So if I take the area of this property, divide it by that lot area, we're at 21 units on that property. And that meets the 12.5 units per hectare. Okay, so sorry.
Okay, I've got the deputy.
So that, under the R5 zone, okay, development could occur at 21 units, lots, dwellings, whatever we want to call it, on that property. Couple other things, I mean, so we need direction from council as to what your expectations are if you defer it. So you need to tell us what you want. A couple things too with regard to the comments about the Conservation Authority. Okay, we do need approval from the Conservation Authority for the outlet because it's in the hazard. This property is not in the hazard. It's designated residential. There's nothing hazardous about it. Okay, so be clear. It's a piece of residentially designated land in our OP. So development is anticipated. Okay, there's so many things brought up.
Drainage.
Drainage, okay, so stormwater management ponds are our standard way of dealing with stormwater management and development. It's what we do. It's what the province tells us to do. Design criteria established by the province and applied by professional engineers when they do their servicing report. So they just don't draw it out of the air. There are criteria for that. I know we all can agree that, yes, we've had some severe storms this year, for sure. Now, whether MOE is going to revise stormwater management requirements, I don't know, but we have to work within the parameters on which the province has established for us today. And the report shows that that will deal with stormwater off that property. It will go into the pond and then it will slowly drain through pipes down to the existing ditch there. That outlet will need approval from the Conservation Authority, but that is standard practice in dealing with stormwater management in condos or subdivision, any development, even commercial development, we have to deal with stormwater. Okay, so that was dealt with in the report. And it will be a stormwater management pond of some sort because we don't have lots of developments might share a stormwater management pond if they're in close proximity to each other. So we build one larger one and let them all share in the cost and that. So we need direction from council. If you want to defer it, you need to tell us what it is your expectations are. We can go back and talk to the developer about what they're willing to concede and come back and talk to you again. Otherwise, if you're, I mean, I can tell you that if you outright refuse it, it will probably get appealed to the board, but you need to refuse it for reasons. So give us reasons. Don't just say refuse, say, because we feel the density exceeds what the official plan provides for. So we can, when we go to the board understands what council's concerns were. Okay, so I mean, you can think about it, you can defer it, you can come back, we can talk to the developer, and then you know, while it's deferred, you guys can think about if you want to refuse it, the reasons you want to. That clear? Okay.
So would it be fair to say then if council chooses to defer this, that they defer it and direct staff to discuss with the developer to see if there's an opportunity to work with the existing zoning or to lessen the density of the.
Exactly, yes.
Council, what do you think of that? Are we leading that way or looking for your directions? Council Bojan?
Thank you, Worship. I still think personally, I'm still stuck on the fact that we're focusing on density in the wrong area. I believe in density, but I believe in projects that are in the central settlement areas and not starting at the north and trying to build our way back to where the settlement is already. So just going to what council direction is, I can't speak on behalf of council, but my biggest problem with this, because I agree, stormwater management ponds usually help improve drainage rather than make it worse. But from a project of let's try to create more density, I still think we're in the wrong spot. And I don't know if deferring is going to fix that because I'm still going to say the same thing. I'm still going to say 27 homes is a lot. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Alternatively, if you don't see a future where deferral works for you, you can defeat it However, if you defeat it, you will have to come up with sound reasoning as well, as Mr. Richardson suggested, noting that the official plan does not allow for the density being proposed necessarily, noting that the servicing in the area is not, council's opinion, adequate to facilitate a development of this density, would be two good reasons if that's the direction you're going.
Yes, sir. Your name, please?
Fred Devine. Just while you're considering this, before you make a decision, there's been a lot of talk about upgrades to Townsend line. And as that lady stated on there, Hillsborough Road, which is in as tough a shape as Townsend, will be used predominantly to go to Sarnia, Bryce Grove, whatever, by all of the people that move into this, what should be put in the middle of the city, let's face it, not out in the boonies to ruin everybody else's cars. But anyway, you should consider the cost to repair or redo Hillsborough Road as well.
I'm sorry, we have your name again for the clerk?
Divine,
First name?
Fred.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Basie?
I don't see any reasoning in deferring this, because I can't see what negotiations you're gonna come up to. Personally, the R7 works for me at all, so. I don't agree with any of it, and deferring it's not gonna make me change my mind. As Alex says, that we're not getting any better, so.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I stated many reasons on why I don't see how this is justified, and I don't think it qualifies in its current presentation. Not having adequate services supplied by its own settlement boundary, and not being filled in a whole community. And it is stated as a secondary settlement. I don't see where the need for such density. I just don't see it. I don't see the justification for it. In saying that, rather than just outright showing opposition, I think the deferral gives a good opportunity to allow for a voluntary negotiation to occur to see if this developer is willing to remain at the R5. And that's what the purpose of the deferral would be, to allow that opportunity. So in that sense, I mean, it's not going to change my mind and how I feel, but in that sense, maybe there is something to be gained from that.
Thank you. Deputy?
Yeah, I agree that this is not for this density. On the other hand, it is approved for settlement area, am I correct? And residential. So if maybe you could negotiate, the staff could negotiate, something a little bit more reasonable, because I don't think we got a chance if we just downright turn it down, but it'll go to the board and it'll be, just stick that in our ear. So, I would prefer to defer it and come up and see if staff can come up with something that's appropriate.
Thank you. Councilor Van Claveren?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I agree with Councilor Vesey. I'd rather not be at the mercy of the board and potentially lose it all. So while this is a hard no, I think it's worth negotiating and laying out our argument strongly too. I think we need a little time to refine the argument so it presents well. And not a significant amount of time, but as soon as possible, I would say, but yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Wilbett?
Well, I think with all the comments that we've had tonight, both from the council and the public, you've got a list of concerns to go back and deal with. Very big concerns, but at least it'll leave the talks open by deferring it, in my opinion, to dead end it. It would be probably an automatic appeal to the OLT. And then, as John said, they'll they'll make the decision, we'll have no part in it, so. I mean, there's lots of big issues here in my mind, and I don't really agree with it going out there whatsoever, but. It is settlement area and, it is zoned, we rezoned it to an R5. And, so if the conditions are met from the people here that have raised their concerns about what they were told would not happen and, then defer it and see what brought back to us. And by deferring it is not approving it. So we can still turn it down at any stage. So that would be my thoughts.
The majority of council has suggested that the preferred vote tonight would be for deferral. The reason we will be deferring is to allow staff to work with the developer to consider lower density housing, which will work better with the characteristics of the neighborhood and the services that are currently available to the area. Does that be an accurate,
That sums it up. So we have Deputy Mayor McEwen and Councillor Van Claveren that signed the motion. Read it and we'll look for the vote. Well, that the zoning bylaw amendment 3 of 2023 being a bylaw to rezone the land municipally known as 0 Hillsborough Road from the existing residential 5 bracket R5 to site specific residential 7 bracket 1 R7 1 zone revised by staff be taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Council, this would be for a deferred vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Council, have a motion by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Basie, that the public meeting for this one be adjourned. All those in favor? All right, thank you. We are running late and I do apologize to those that are involved with our next application. To those that joined with us virtually on the previous one, thank you very much. To those in person, thank you for sharing your viewpoint. We do appreciate it.
Vote?
You may go or you can stay.
We're going to vote.
I think since you're here, you've already won it.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Council,
Yeah, 2 minutes.
2-minute break, council.
Minutes.
They are working
Myself.
We're behind. The site, and then.
join. It's a public meeting. Zoning bylaw amendment 4 of 2024, 4386 Confederation Line. This meeting again will be streamed live and recorded for public viewing on the town's YouTube page. I do apologize for those that are here with us, not only in person, but joining us virtually. We're about an hour late getting going, but the last one was very important that we went through the process. And we certainly appreciate your patience and your understanding. Council, I'm going to go to item number 2. I ask you to declare a conflict of interest if you do have one. Time. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment would amend the town of Plympton-Wyoming zoning bylaw to change the zoning on a portion of the lands known as 4386 Confederation Line, agricultural 2 bracket A2 to residential 1 R1. The applicant is proposing to sever the land subject of this application from the balance farm parcel to create 2 lots. One to supply the existing dwelling and accessory buildings, a lot for future single-family residential development. The lands were previously subject of the official plan amendment 53, which changed the land use designation from the subject lands restricted agricultural area to residential. Official plan amendment 53 was approved by the Ontario Land Tribunal May the 11th, 2023. For those of you that are joining us virtually as well as here, I'd like to introduce our council, Councillor Alex Bojan, Councillor Mike Beasy, Councillor Christian Rodriguez, Eddie McEwen, Councillor John Van Claveren, and Councillor Bob Bolzett. Joined with staff by Mr. Adam Sabansky, our CAO, our clerk Erin Korchuk, our treasurer Norma Roddick-Priest, our planners Randy Burke and Patty Richardson, as well as Mr. Paul Da Silva, our Director of Public Works, and our planning technician, Lisa Smeek. So, I have this official notice has been mailed to neighboring property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands and posted on the town's website on December the 22nd, 2023. The official notice was posted on the site December the 29th, 2023, and emailed to required agencies on January the 4th, 2024. Ms. Meekins, can you confirm that this has been all done?
So I can, if they're accurate on this email, you'll see the area that was mailed to outlined in purple.
So I'll go to motion 6.1 that I have moved by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Rodriguez. The report by Patty Richardson, Senior Planning Planner dated January the 22nd, 2024, regarding zoning bylaw amendment application 4 of 2024, affecting lands known as 4386 Confederation Line, submitted by 406 Farms Incorporated, be received. Okay, we have the presentation by the applicant or his agent. We have Mr. Zanting, who is attending us virtually, as well as I believe Ryan Ferrari from AJ Clark and Associates attending virtually. Will you be speaking, Mr. Zanting, or is Mr. Ferrari?
I'm not sure either one of us have a lot to say. Ryan, he can speak, I suppose.
Yeah, just very briefly, good evening, Mayor, members of council. For the record, Ryan Ferrari, AJ Clark and Associates. No, just wanted to state that I've read the staff recommendation in the report. Certainly agree with staff's recommendation to approve the zoning bylaw amendment. Other than that, if there are any questions of Mayor or council, I'm happy to answer them. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm going to have to back up here. I forgot to ask our planner for your report. I think we've all read it, but I'd like to, if you have anything to add on that.
I have a few things to add. So we're changing the zoning on this property from agricultural to residential. There's 2 parcels proposed here. Now, these lands have been subject to 2 official plan amendments, one to the county, one to the local official plan, which all went to LPAT or the tribunal or OMB, however you want to call it. Okay. The land originally was designated before the county review of the official plan in 2017. Portion of this land was designated for residential development in the county plan. Okay, the county reviewed, the owner asked that the entire frontage be included for residential development in the county plan at that time. When the county approved the county plan, that was not done. Not only did the additional lands not get included, the designation on the land was taken away. So the owner appealed to the tribunal, and in a simple summary, he won. The land, whole frontage of the land in the county plan was designated urban center, okay? So then came the application to this council, not particularly you, but Plympton-Wyoming Council, to amend the local official plan, so your official plan, from the agricultural designation to residential. That there was an indecision by council. They made a motion, staff supported the request. Council made a motion to approve, and it was denied. It didn't pass. They did not make a decision to refuse. So the application was deferred based on no decision. Again, we went to LPAT. We did come to an agreement with the owner. And then it went back to LPAT. LPAT approved the designation to residential across the entire frontage of the property. So that all being said, the lands are designated for residential development now. Okay. All the owner is asking for is to take a section of the land that's designated for residential development, and you will note if you've been there, there's an existing dwelling there. That existing dwelling will be severed from the lands. It is allowed to remain on the existing septic system. The house can be removed, renovated, and renewed, and stay on the existing septic system. So the zoning I'm suggesting for that would allow that to happen. Council should be aware, though, in the future, if that piece of property is developed more densely, so say they want to develop 5, 6 single-family dwellings on that property, that will require rezoning, and it will require full municipal services. So then we go to the larger piece of property, the 5 acres that is on the map there. That is proposed to be developed for residential development, single-family dwellings, or whatever is permitted by the OP, which is a range. Your plan has a range of what is permitted in the residential designation. However, that land has to be fully serviced before any development can proceed. Okay, we have to be satisfied as a municipality that full municipal services are available. So I am recommending to council that we put that in the R1 holding zone, and the holding zone requires it not develop until the municipality is satisfied with servicing. What's being proposed here does comply with your official plan. It complies with the county plan. So I can recommend approval to move forward on it. But you most likely won't see development on the large piece of property for a while. When we get to that point, it will be a plan of subdivision or a plan of condominium, something along that line. We did have a service and report done for this, and the development can be accommodated in. There is a problem that we need a pump station here, sanitary pump station. So that is an issue for development of the lands. Okay, but we'll deal with that when a development proposal concrete comes forward. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Meekins, have we received any correspondence written to this proposal? Any written correspondence?
No, we have not received any formal written correspondence for this proposal.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Council, I'm going to go to you for questions. I'm going to begin on my right. Councilor Bojan, anything from you?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to clarify, sorry, just for so the larger piece on the right has to be municipal water and sewer for any future development, like a pump station. The existing farm dwelling can be sewer unless it's developed beyond what it is.
It can be on the septic system, yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Vaizey?
Well, my comment being, we have other farmers that want to split land off the front. We tell them they can't do it because we're preserving our farmland. But yet, because this is close to town, that farmland's not near as valuable for crops apparently, and we can split it and have as many lots as we want. So I find it, we're not gonna solve the problem, it's a province thing, but if I live on London Line, I can't split my frontage up and put lots in for my kids, but I can here, so I don't. Nothing we can do about it. Like I say, when the sewers come in, that house will have to be put on the sewer. That time comes. There's nothing we can do about it, so.
Just to clarify, the existing dwelling can stay and it can be replaced. Just one dwelling on that lot and it can stay on septic. But if it develops for more than that, it will be on full service.
Thank you.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you, Russia. So just to clarify, this already was identified, even though it was being used as agriculture, it was already identified as part of the urban settlement. And it was removed during the county's official plan update. It was like Lake Shore, all of
Correct.
Lake Shore was. And
Correct. It was, part of it was already designated for residential development in the county plan. When the county did the new official plan, they removed it all and it was appealed. And it went back into the urban center development.
So. Okay, so it already was there, just like Lake Shore Road stuff. So R1 residential, since we've talked about R5 and R7. I just want to be clear on R1 residential, and from what I understand from our official policy and stuff, urban center would be the most dense area because it is supporting an urban center, with being Wyoming, correct?
Correct.
So what is the density of R1? Since we know 12.5 per whatever and 15 and.
So when I hear you talk, there's a difference between zoning and official plan designations, okay? The R1 is a zone, okay? And I can tell you what the minimum lot size is in an R1 zone, okay? It is 15 meters of frontage, okay? So 50 feet basically, and 420 square meters of lot area. Okay, so that's the size of lot that could be in the development on that larger piece of property under this R1. The council, we're putting it here because R1 is our most common zone, okay? It's a good standard residential development. That's not to say at some point council might not see someone apply for a higher density, but I think I've heard your comments. You're open to higher density in our urban centers, okay, in our designated, and this is in our urban center, okay? So this is where you might get a higher development, a higher density development. But the R1 zoning is being placed on with a hold, so no development can proceed at this time until we're serviced.
Deputy Mayor?
I have lots of comments, but I can't verbalize them. Because this has gone through so many different red tape that we didn't have a lot to do with. So, and it's already done. So I don't know how we can even not pass it. There, I said it as nice as I could.
You did, thank you. Van Clever?
Don't think I can add a lot of substance other than to say that many of the issues that come to council are very contentious, and I happen to know all the parties involved and they're polar opposites in their opinions, and unfortunately, yeah, we have lost a bit of control over our municipality here, and for better or for worse, it's a reality. So yeah, we probably have to follow through on some recommendations and hopefully make the best of it. There's some consensus on all parties involved, and the best we can with what we been served.
Thank you. Councilor Wolvett?
Well, I guess I got to reflect the comments that our deputy mayor has made. I mean, we've been involved in this since the get-go. We followed the recommendations that we were told to follow. And basically, the county was a county issue. It started out. And as you can see in here, we're basically overruled and brought into line with the county. Like I say, we were recommended to do and say. And reading this whole report, I just don't think there's anything in there that we can go against. It's a done deal. Yeah, I have a whole lot of issues too around land severances and the use of agricultural land. Seems to be out of control, using it up just bits and pieces here and there. And this is another example of it. And it just keeps going, and I mean, developers are not going to stop. I mean, this is what they do for a living, and how we control it, I don't know. It's every time we deal with it, it just seems as though either it doesn't matter what decision we make, when it gets down to the province or the land tribunals, we get overruled anyways. And we talked about this earlier. So that's kind of the way I feel here. We've been overruled. I don't think there's anything we can do about it.
Thank you, Counselor. Ms. Smith, speaking's nobody from the public registered to speak in advance.
No, no one has registered in advance.
I will ask if there's anybody in attendance that would like to speak. The chair recognizes.
No, you have to register.
Yes, you do, sir. But I will recognize you, Mr. Hankey. Mr. Hankey, I got you do 5 minutes, so.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'm good with that.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
So I guess I want to just clarify, because, you know, it is a done deal. We can't, you know, change what's happened with OLT and that. I just want to go back to a statement by your the planner, and how she gives her opinion based on, how can you give your opinion based on what? That this is never going to be built on for years to come in that? How do you make that opinion to council that you know that nothing's going to happen tomorrow? You said that out loud, that, oh,
I
this
did
will
say
never
that out
happen.
loud. And we have a sanitary pump station issue that needs to be resolved. So we do have some hurdles to get over.
Okay.
And when I say a long time, I mean, I'm talking like, could be 5 years, could be less.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's what you're basing your opinion on.
My opinion, oops, I'm probably not supposed to do this.
So I just want to clarify, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna slow you down. Okay. I no abuse to council. That'd be nice, okay?
Oh, yeah. I just want to figure out how she knows on what she's telling council, advising council, that she knows that nothing's going to happen. I just didn't understand
I
that
think she
statement.
clear it could be 5 years, it could be any time, right? That was a term that you used, right, Mr. Richardson?
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. So I just want to go over some of the things very quickly. So I think she kind of addressed it a bit on the change in the original agreement of the OLT agreement for sewage and everything. How does this affect the green space that you would normally have when you do a subdivision, when you start breaking parcels up? Does that change the amount of green space, the parkland that a developer would have to do by doing that? I just, you know, was curious, you know, on that part.
The amount of green space is regulated by the zone. And the amount of parkland is either 5% of the total land or value of 5%, plus there'd still be needed lands for stormwater management.
Okay, so that hasn't changed. It would still require 5%.
It would require, but they're allowed to provide it in cash in lieu. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that there will be a natural space or a park there. They're required to either provide 5% of the land or the equivalent in cash value.
Okay, and and how would that affect all the other services, sidewalks and everything that was proposed or said that would happen if this land was ever developed?
I don't recall sidewalks being necessarily a requirement. The minimum requirement was for sanitary.
Well, you said it would be a requirement in a subdivision agreement. I just wondered if you still are saying.
No,
that.
sidewalks are reviewed on a case-by-case basis.
Okay,
Wastewater, as in sewage, drinking water, as in the water main, and stormwater management is required for this development and any new development.
so then if the existing lot beside me to the east, the 2.4 acres or whatever it is allowed to be severed, you know, I'm okay with somebody building another $1 million house beside me. I'm fine with that. I don't have an issue with that. But and the other land isn't developed beside it to the east of it. Now, when that land becomes developed to the east of it, does that automatically make the one beside me has to go with sewers also?
Depends on the circumstances. If
What,
if the existing property may.
speak a little louder?
It depends on the circumstances. If the existing property, as per Ms. Richardson's report, stays in its current characteristics, it is moderately improved, it can continue to use the existing wastewater system. If it intensifies or creates higher density housing, then they are required to upgrade the wastewater system and connect to the municipality.
So
As the other section.
what would constitute, let's say, on that smaller parcel that it's got 200 frontage, is a little over 2 acres. What is considered more high density than one dwelling on that lot?
Additional dwelling units.
I'm sorry?
Additional dwelling units.
So any additional dwelling on that would require that they go back to the agreement of the town had with the OLT on the services of sewers going out that far.
Yes, as per the OLT settlement and as per Ms. Richardson.
And so let's say this lot was for sale and it's sold. Is that something that the lawyer, when he looks up the property and does his due diligence, is written down there somewhere? I heard quite an interesting story, on the thing before where I think you're right. People are going to try to find a way to get to beach rights. And if you're going to start making this high density stuff around certain areas, if you don't prepare, you're really, getting into a mixed bag for not this council, but the next and next. So I just want to be clear.
Would respect the requirements that were presented here tonight and will likely add those as conditions.
Mhm. So
Severance.
they would be on the deed then, that if somebody were to build, then that it could be,
Don't know necessarily if it's registered on deed and title, but it would be a requirement.
would be a requirement.
So
So,
be able to get building permits without the additional,
okay. And there's no way of getting around that?
not that I'm aware of it.
Okay, I wondered. But no, I'm happy to hear that your planner did put an R1 holding zone. I think that's probably an appropriate thing from what I heard from out at the lake side too, that you can have a holding zone. And holding zones can last for a long period of time. I don't know what that means. It could mean 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. But a holding zone does give council.
Zones stay in place until the property owner has met the conditions outlined in the holding.
But, so anyways, I guess that's all the questions I really had. I just wanted to clarify all the things that were done before, that they are going to go forward into the next development of that property.
They are a condition of the OLT settlement.
Yeah.
They carry forward.
So they carry forward, they don't carry forward, they carry forward with the land, not the owner.
They are attached to the land, yes.
All right, I guess that's all I have to ask. I agree with Bob, I was more interested in that part of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hanky. Are there any further questions from council? I'll start on my left this time. Anything from Mr. Wilvet, Councilor Wilvet?
No, I don't think there's any more I can say in this topic.
Van Claveren?
No, but Mr. Hanky did bring up a good point about registered on title, you know, when it goes to, when this consent goes to the Committee of Adjustment, that could be a condition that is registered on title, right?
It could be, but the requirement for servicing is right in the zoning, right there. I mean, zoning is what people look at when they buy property.
No, I'm talking
So-
about the one,
The other one?
one house.
So warnings and conditions, the Land Registry Office has advised us with a number of our subdivisions that you cannot register warnings and conditions on a title. You can require them under your agreements to provide notice to the purchasers, but you cannot necessarily apply them to
Okay.
deed and title.
Mhm.
So you could put a condition as the Committee of Adjustment that all future owners be notified of these conditions.
Right, okay.
Is that it, Deputy?
Yeah, sure.
Councilor Rodriguez? Crazy?
Just a clarification, because I asked this question and now it's changed. New house or old house stays allowed to stay on septic. The other property gets developed because services and everything are added. Does that house need to go on the services or can it stay on the septic?
You can stay on the septic as long as it's one house on there, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bojan?
Nothing further from me, thank you.
All right, council. Read the motion again, moved by Councilor Bojan, seconded by Councilor Rodriguez, that the report. Patty Richardson, Senior Planner dated January the 22nd, 2024, regarding the zoning bylaw amendment application 4 of 2024 affecting lands known as 4386 Confederation Line, submitted by 406 Farms Incorporated, be received. Council, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carried. So I have a motion by Councilor Van Claveren, seconded by Councilor Rodriguez, that the zoning bylaw amendment 4 of 2024, the bylaw to rezone a portion of the lands known as 4386 Confederation Line, agricultural 2 bracket A2 to residential 1 bracket 2 R1 bracket 2 zone and residential 1 R1 bracketed holding bracket H zone be taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. All those in favor? Carried. Councilor. Before I close this down, I will explain there's an appeal process that any person or public body who has made verbal presentations, public meeting or verbal presentations before the bylaw was passed may appeal the council's passage of a zoning bylaw amendment. Ontario Land Tribunal within 20 days of the date of which the passage of the bylaw is given. Moved by Councilor Bojan, seconded by Councilor Basie, that this public meeting be adjourned. All those in favor? Carried. our zoning bylaw amendment 5 of 2024, 3368 London Line. Again, I will remind everyone this meeting is being streamed live and recorded for public viewing on the town's YouTube page. Council, once again, I refer to our declaration of pecuniary interest. I would ask you to please declare it at the appropriate time. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment would amend the town of Plympton-Wyoming zoning bylaw to change the zoning on a portion of lands known as 3368 London Line, agricultural 1 bracket A1 to no dwelling agricultural ND bracket A, ND/A bracketed to restrict the construction of a single detached dwelling on the remnant farm parcel. Additionally, the proposed amendment would recognize the existing non-compliant parcel, prevent the lands to have a minimum lot size of approximately 35 hectares, notwithstanding the required minimum 38 hectares as required by Table A of the zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing to sever off a surplus farm dwelling from the land subject of this application and create 2 lots. One to support the existing dwelling and accessory structure, and the other as a farm parcel restricted from having additional dwellings. If you've just joined us, we have our council at Councillor Bojan, Councillor Basie, Councillor Rodriguez, Deputy Mayor McEwen, Councillor Van Claveren, and Councillor Wolvette. We're joined by staff, our CAO, Mr. Adam Sabansky, our clerk, Aaron Kawarchuk, treasurer Nora Roddick-Priest, our Director of Public Works, Paul De Silva, planning technician Lisa Smeekins, as well as our planners, Patty Richardson, and we're also joined by Mary Lou Tanner. This evening, Mary Lou, it's good to see you again and welcome back. I apologize for the longevity of our previous meetings, but I guess there's no need to apologize to you. You know how it goes.
I do know how it goes. Good evening, council. My name is Mary Lou Tanner. I am co-author of the report with Ken Melanson, and I am a planning consultant with NPG Planning Solutions. We were also the consultants who did the update to your official plan. So we are here tonight on the very first surplus farm dwelling consent application since the update to the official plan. There is a bit of history on this one, and there are some councillors who went through the update to the official plan with us, which is official plan amendment 54, and there are some new councillors. Official plan amendment 54 was the update that put in place the process that we're going through tonight to allow surplus farm dwelling consents. And a surplus farm dwelling it happens when a farmer has more than one property, they consolidate the operations, and that's important that they consolidate the operations, and the house is no longer needed for their purposes. And generally, it's allowed in Ontario because farmers don't want to be landlords, and it retains housing in the rural and agricultural area. In the case of your official plan, prior to OPA 54, you did not allow them. And as we went through the OPA 54 process, there was a lot of concern from the council of the day about even embarking on this. And it was very important that council see the application first. So it's a bit of a different process. We're here tonight with the rezoning application, and the Committee of Adjustment will deal with the consent application in a couple of weeks. This allows you to consider and think through the issues related to the proposed surplus farm dwelling consent, if you are supportive of it. And it will also signal to the Committee of Adjustment the perspective of council on the proposal. And this is a bit of a different process, as I said, but it was very important as we updated the official plan that this process was in place so that council had the first discussion about these. This particular application before you this evening is as a result of an appeal of OPA 54, as well as an appeal of a prior amendment by the owner to achieve a surplus farm dwelling consent. That's OPA 51. They're both at the Ontario Land Tribunal. We had a lot of discussions last year and agreed that the way to resolve the appeals of both was to allow the private applications for rezoning and consent to proceed under OPA 54 policies, have council make a decision, and then we could provide direction to the Ontario Land Tribunal that either the matter is settled or it is not settled. So that's some of the backstory on it.
This particular application for rezoning does meet the policies of OPA 54 that are in that amendment. It does meet the requirements of your zoning bylaw in terms of the A1 zone for a single family dwelling. And we will retain, and you can see it on that screen, the woodlot at the very northern end will retain the woodlot zoning, and the creek will retain the hazard zoning. And then the balance of the agricultural property will have NDA zoning, which means there is no additional residential dwelling required. And that's very important because the province of Ontario requires in the PPS, if you're going to allow this, there cannot be another home on the farmed parcel. So you have to put that zoning in place to eliminate the opportunity for putting another house on the property. That is the entire backstory of it. I was working with Mr. Melanson on it. Also online, we have Mark Dorfman, who is working with the town, and Ryan Ferrari, who's representing the applicant. We are recommending that you approve the zoning tonight. It is a farm consolidation that has occurred in the town. It does meet the requirements of the provincial policy statement as well as the county plan and your official plan under OPA 54. The size of the lot is appropriate at 0.8 hectares. It meets the minimum distance separation requirements, and there have been no agency concerns. Just one slight change from your normal process. We are recommending you give the bylaw 3 readings, but not adopt it. We do need to get the Committee of Adjustment decision and then put that decision, adopt the zoning bylaw and put them out to the community for any feedback or potential appeal. Mayor Atkinson, that concludes my overview. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I must back up before we move on. I have to ask speaking to our planning tech, was official notice mailed to the neighboring property owners within 120 meters of the subject plans, posted on the town's website and emailed to required agencies on January the 4th, 2024. An official notice was posted on site January the 5th. Can you confirm that?
Yes, I can confirm that those dates are accurate.
All right, thank you very much. I kind of missed that spot, the agenda. Okay, is there any presentations? Mr. Santin, are you going to speak or is Mr. Ferrari going to speak? Because if there's anything that you'd like to add to it?
I have lots of things to say, but I think I'll just sit right down tonight. So Brian, do you have anything?
Evening, Mayor, members of council. No, just briefly would like to note and thank actually staff and Mary Lou for getting us to this point and working with us through this process. I don't have anything else to add, but certainly in agreement with the recommendation made in the report. And if there are any questions of the mayor or members of council, I'm certainly here to answer them. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Did we receive any correspondence related to this application?
No, we did not receive any written correspondence for this application.
Okay. So council, any questions? I'm going to begin with Councilor Wobeck.
Okay, well, this has been a long time coming, by the way. I certainly support surplus farm severances. Now, on this particular property, at the time, I believe I can be corrected if I don't say the right thing here, that we encouraged not to support it at the time. You know what, I really can't recall all the reasons, so I'll admit to that right now. That's why you guys have gone through all that you have gone through. So I guess just one clarification, and I believe you already said it. This is one severance, period. No other severances on this parcel.
That's
how I sum it up?
Yes, that's correct.
All the questions that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Van Claveren.
Just real briefly, I haven't declared a conflict of interest, although I did live in that house with my family up when I was 6 years old. So I do know the inside of that house, and it's a shame to see the barns disappear, but nonetheless, it's I have no issues with this severance. I'm quite comfortable the fact that no other homes are going to be built on the remaining farmland. Makes good sense. Everything sounds good to me.
Is there a plaque there, the birthplace?
If there's not, there should be. I think there may be something carved in the basement wall.
You could declare a conflict on your commission when you sold it.
Yeah. Probably already did on that one.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, the area to the west, does it have an access? Like, there's a portion left, there's a creek that goes beside the Severance, correct? So. The area to the west that doesn't have an access at all then.
No, the access issue will need to be sorted out, with the authority.
Right.
If the consent is finalized, and it may be a condition of consent that a driveway is put on the remnant parcel to the satisfaction of the road authority.
Well,
To give you a better level of comfort, Deputy Mayor, we've been in contact with the property owner and the county. And if the county is uncomfortable providing multiple accesses on the roadway, there is a process through the Drainage Act, which the property owner can grant access to a secondary section of land.
Can I just help clarify too? Are you asking about the farmland having a separate road access to London Line, or that 5-ish acres on the western side? So there's an existing culvert. You now today go by the house over the culvert to get there. That culvert will stay in place and be owned by the retained farmland with a new driveway access off of the retained farmland off London Line.
Okay, all right.
So fundamentally, as Snyder will often say, there will be no change on the ground. A lot line will be drawn in, but there will be no change to how things are done today as we speak, including combines, et cetera, over that existing culvert.
Okay, thanks.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Your Worship. I only have one question, and that was your very last statement. I did not understand it at all. I don't even remember reading it. About passing 3 times, but waiting. Explain that a little bit better, and because I've never heard it before. And how does it affect timelines to get things moving forward?
It's a good question. It's an important one. So maybe we can put the map back up because it's easier to explain. So if you pass and sign the zoning bylaw tonight and it goes into effect, that will be the zoning on the property, which includes the A1 parcel for the house and the NDA areas. And the NDA is the change. So what's shown is the hatched. If the consent is refused and there's no lot creation, you've put zoning on the farm that shouldn't be there. So all we're saying to you is signal your intent, approve the report, do the 3 readings. But once we know the consent is going to go ahead, then we'll adopt the bylaw and put everything out together. That way we're not creating some red tape inadvertently. Is really what the issue is. It doesn't impact the timelines.
You explained how you're saying you're gonna pass it 3 times and then not adopt it. We go to committee of severance on the 13th, assuming it's approved. I don't, does it come back to council then for final adoption?
It does, yeah.
May Your Worship, we have a meeting the following day, the 14th, so we would have to look at including it on the agenda. And then see what happens at COA, and then it would already be on for the 14th.
Thanks, Clerk, for that clarification. Okay, Counselor Basie?
Yes, thank you. I'm confused on the appeal, that it's not appealed and now it meets all our criteria. Well, if it meets our criteria, then why are we appealing?
So when OPA 51 was refused by council, OPA 51, your official plan at the time said no surplus farm dwelling.
Understand that.
Yes. When we did the 5-year update, we recommended to you, and you included, change that provision to allow surplus farm dwelling severages. Yes. OPA 54 was appealed by Mr. Zantik's corporations. And as part of the resolution of his appeal of OPA 54, we came to an agreement to allow these applications to move forward, and that would resolve the appeal.
They meet all our criteria.
Meet all of the criteria of OPA 54, which is the updated.
55.
Not 51.
So then,
I think
all right,
that's important.
why we're fighting for years if it matches. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Bojan?
No, this file's been going on long enough. I don't want to make it go longer.
Very good, Councilor Bojan. No, we have nothing from the members of the public. I guess, Council, you've asked your questions. I will ask Mr. Dorfman, who is our consultant. Is there anything you'd like to add on this, Mr. Dorfman? We certainly appreciate you joining in with us this evening. I'm sorry, we can't hear you. You're muted.
I'm a techno peasant. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Mary Lou has adequately and simply explained the issue. All I want to add is that official plan amendment number 54 is still with the tribunal. There's not going to be a hearing. So if council adopts the bylaw and the consent is granted by the Committee of Adjustment and the applicant, the appellant, withdraws the appeal of amendment number 54, then this zoning bylaw amendment will come into force and effect. And that's included in the bylaw. You'll notice at the end of the bylaw, there is a statement to that effect, that the bylaw will come into force and effect when Amendment 54 comes into effect. And the reason for that is that every zoning bylaw amendment must conform to the official plan. So we're doing this in order to avoid a long and probably contentious hearing before the tribunal. This just speeds up the process. And as Mary Lou indicated, this zoning bylaw conforms to the official plan policies for surplus farm dwellings in Amendment 54.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll have a motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that the report by Ken Melanson, Manager of Planning and Development Services for the County of Lambton, Mary Lou Tanner, the consultant for the County of Lambton, and Mark Dorfman, consultant for the town of Plympton-Wyoming, dated January 29th, 2024, regarding zoning bylaw amendment application 5 of 2024, affecting lands known as 3368 London Line, submitted by AJ Clark and Associates, agent for JN Ventures Limited, be received. Also, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Yes.
Staff were not aware of the final approval, so we will need to amend that motion. To
This
just-
one here.
Yeah, to just say taken as having read 3 times.
All right.
If that's okay with Councilor Greg Clavender and Deputy Mayor McEwen.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilor Van Claveren, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen, that zoning bylaw amendment 5, 2024, being a bylaw to rezone a portion of the lands known as 3368 London Line from agricultural 1 bracket A1 to no dwelling agricultural bracket ND/A to restrict the construction of a single detached dwelling on the remnant farmland, taken as read 3 times. Heard the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Before I close the meeting, there's an explanation of the appeal process. The applicant or any person or public body who has made verbal presentations at a public meeting or verbal presentations before the bylaw was passed may appeal the council's passage of a zoning bylaw amendment to the Ontario Land Tribunal within 20 days from the date the notice of the passage of the bylaw is given. Before I go for motion to close this meeting, I would like to thank planning all staff for the work that they did during this meeting tonight. It's a long night, but I think we've made some good progress. And without your assistance, we wouldn't be where we're at now. So thank each and every one of you for what you've done. The motion by Councillor Vaizey, seconded by Councillor Bojan, that the public meeting be adjourned. All those in favor? Carried.